may as well start with the obvious question, why we had 13 guys on the field. Get right to it. And probably what I should do is just kind of take you through the sequence of what happened. It was certainly not your normal substitution play. We had about 150 plays prior to that on offense, defense, and special teams, and both sides had no issues substituting, with the exception of a couple of things. But goal line's always the tricky one because it's the furthest away from your bench, and it always requires a lot more big guys in the game. But it was kind of a double substitution. And what happened was there's 32 seconds left. They have their goal line in. We have our goal line in. They run a quarterback sweep. Nick Revez makes a great play. And then there's a long pause. And, you know, it's that time where they line up, and it looks like they're going to clock it. And then it looks like maybe they'll run another play. So we have to get a call in. So we get our goal line, we call goal line, we call our call. So now the players are locked into the play. And then the clock's ticking. And then at about 15 seconds left, they change. They run their personnel on, they get their sub package in, and we have to match personnel. Otherwise, we can't have goal line people trying to cover their receivers. So we go to base. And we go to base, and we begin to run our base on. At 9 seconds, the umpire steps over the ball. At 7 seconds, he steps away. We still don't have a couple of guys are still getting out there. At 6 seconds, center goes down, snaps it at 3, and we don't get our guys off the field. So that's what happened. That's what happened. I think you have to look at some lessons from the game. The first lesson is that it was a great competition between two teams, and it reminds you of what appeals to you about this game. It really does. I mean, it was a 4-quarter war. Both teams were into it. It was fun, and even though the result doesn't go your way, it was just an awesome game for the players. It was an awesome game for the coaches, for the fans. It was just a good football game. The second lesson is that we set a standard, I think, for the first time this season of how we need to compete in a game for 60 minutes against a good football team. We had a great week of preparation. We had a good 48 hours prior to the kickoff of our mental priming our minds right, and then we competed hard for 60 minutes with a lot of adversity and kept swinging. And that should be the standard, and that standard can never be compromised. And when we don't meet that standard, we never should say it's okay. The third and most importantly, is that when you don't have the result go your way, when you look up and you didn't get the outcome that you wanted, there's only one thing you do, and that's you look in the mirror and see, is there anything that we could have done, that I could have done, that anybody in the organization could have done to change the outcome of the game, to do something that maybe wouldn't have allowed that result. And there's certainly a lot of things that we could have done to change the outcome. There were a lot of things prior to the end. There were a couple of 4th downs on both sides of the ball that we didn't get done. And at the end of the game, regardless of the other team's administration, regardless of the administration of the game by the officials, we could have done our part better. And a championship football team does that. It's poised. Everybody on the field recognizes what's happening, and we could have avoided what happened at the end had we been a little more poised and aware as a team. And I think the important thing to know is that it's not okay, and I told our team this, it's not okay to lose. And when you lose, you have to look in the mirror and say, what can we do better to prevent it? And there was certainly a lot of that. We can't whine, we can't complain, we can't make excuses, because you can never do that until you look yourself in the mirror first. And that's just part of being a man, and that's a part of life. When life doesn't go your way, look in the mirror, maybe I could have done something to change the outcome. And that's what we're going to do. There were a lot of positives in the game. I mean, a lot that we can build on as a program. I was so proud of how we managed the game on all three phases. The turnover battle we won, which we knew was going to be critical whenever you play a great team. We had as dominant a special teams performance against probably the best special teams group in the country. We played great in the red area. We had two huge drives on offense in the fourth quarter when we're just trying, we were trying to get a first down. And we didn't finish one, but we scored on the other to take the lead. There's just a lot of good things in that game that you can come out of. The trick is, how do we handle this week? We got an opponent that's starving for a win. It's a prideful program. It's one of the winningest programs in the last 10 years in the country. And to think that they're going to, get down or go in the tank is absurd. They have too much tradition. They have too much built into the program. The coaches are too good. The players are too good. So we got an unbelievable challenge against an opponent. It's an early game, which we didn't play well the last early game we played. So we need to manage that a little bit better. We're on the road again. It's going to be a lot more hostile. We did a good job of taking the crowd out of the last week. And more importantly, we got to clean the slate. We got to clean the slate and start over, refocus, and handle what happened last week by learning from it, by not accepting it, by not saying it's okay or not complaining, and we build on the next week, and that's what we're going to do. So that's where we are. We had a few guys banged up. Dallas Thomas is banged up. Vic Thomas is banged up. Gerald Williams, he's going to have to wear a cast. Daniel Lincoln has a quad. So those 4 guys are day-to-day. And then the other 5 are still out. Pope, Schofield, Oliver, Walls, and Martin.
Coach, in going forward, the way your team responds from last week's result going down to Georgia, can that help define the rest of the season for your guys?
I'm not into the rest of the season deal because I think every week is like a season. It really is. And if you approach it, I'm not into the momentum or, it's down, it's going to stay down. Every week is a new week, and you have to recommit, you have to refocus, you have to channel all your energy on your opponent, and then channel all your energy on what I need to do to prepare to play well. And that's what we're trying to do with our team. I think that's part of our cultural change with our team. A real emotional team versus a week-to-week professional approach to what we're doing. And you know what? We've shown progress in that. You look at the last 4 games, you've seen less emotion. And I don't mean the kind of emotion that's needed in a game. You got to play this game with emotion, but I mean the kind of emotion that allows the ebb and flow to be too great.
Derek, you talked about looking in the mirror to see what players could have done better and things like that. When you look at your performance and the coach's performance, what could you all have done better?
Well, that was the first thing I do. I look in my mirror before I look at anybody else, I can tell you that. And I think that we obviously, should have taught and emphasized even more the communication of substitution in a pressure situation when the stadium's loud and you're far away from the bench. You just got to teach it better. I don't know any other way to say it. And it really hadn't been a problem. We did have the game where we had that one play where we had 10 and then we went to the field goal block. Hadn't been too big of a problem, but we obviously aren't teaching it and making them more aware of everybody take responsibility to look. And I think what happens is they lean on others to tell them what to do, if that makes sense. And we need all 11 to take individual responsibility to get the call in case it doesn't get communicated properly. And so that's probably the biggest lesson in substitution, that you can't just wait till they run on even though we've emphasized it, we hadn't emphasized it enough. And so I didn't hear the call or I didn't get it, it's no excuse. It's your responsibility to do it.
We talk about players growing together. I mean, is there something to you guys as coaches also having to grow together in these situations and learning, you know, because each one's a new one that you've experienced
Yeah,
these
it
guys
is.
for the first time.
It is, you know, and we all have accountability as coaches, and I'm gonna tell you, nobody, I mean, there's a lot of hurt, and there's a lot of burden that so many people have put on themselves for the game. And you know what? We all should. I mean, we should. It's our responsibility. So that's good. If it doesn't hurt, something's wrong with it. I mean, it's wrong with it.
So Derek, logistically, you would prefer all 11 or anybody that's on the field, they know the call, as opposed to two guys run in and say, I'm in for you?
That's what we do all the time.
Okay.
That's what we've emphasized from day one.
Okay.
And what happens is, you know, you're in the game, you're tired, you know, so the discipline of, and it really showed up against Oregon with the fast pace. We struggled, you know, guys weren't looking over there quick enough. You know, they're recovering from the last play, maybe they're talking to this guy, and then, oh yeah, okay, now what's the call? And you got to get it right away. And it doesn't show up in the normal game because there's time. Most of the time, a guy gets tackled, the 40-second clock goes, here come the subs, it's tick, here come, okay, here comes this, they huddle. Where it's showed is when they try to get something off in 15 seconds or 13 seconds. Well, then it's boom, blah, blah, blah. And I think what really caught us, here's what I believe more than anything, is we made a substitution and we made a call. So you rarely change, if that makes sense. So in their minds, it was goal line, and I got the call, and now they're locked in. Well, that was the call because they were lined up like no huddle, ready to run a play or clock it. And so that's where it was unique. Now, we're changing. So the awareness, we got to teach awareness. Look, guys, you see things changing, we all got to go, there's got to be a little alert. Maybe we're changing.
So you don't think, coaching-wise, you ask too much in those final seconds of the players?
Absolutely not. I don't.
You said
Absolutely not, because that's why that rule was put in place. It's impossible to play this game if you don't match personnel. And to think we're going to go play goal line defense against their 11 personnel where they have 3 wides, who's going to cover? We're going to put Malik out there to cover one of their receivers? I mean, that's why they put the rule in, that when you substitute, you got to match.
There was a point after the game where it looked like you were waving your players like to get off the field. Did you realize that there were 13, or did anybody on your staff realize there were 13 on the field?
It's a great question, and yes, there was. I mean, 'cause I'm sitting there. What I can tell you is my eyes were on the clock and them. So I'm doing this, and I hear and you can see everybody making the call. All right, but then the headsets are off. The communication just broke down, and so the press box, you know, I had no idea. I didn't. And because I was so engaged in the clock and what they were doing, because, you know, we got others doing that. I wanted to make sure that clock and the snap, you know, I wanted to make sure the clock was going to keep ticking, to be honest with you. I've been around this business a long time. Sometimes those things freeze up late in the game. So, and it did. It kept ticking.
But there was communication from you to the box that there were 13.
No, not to me, because my headsets are off. I mean, when it, you know, boom, snap, you know, it was chaotic.
So why were you waving your players to get line?
I just saw this mingling, and something was going on. I knew, and I was like, we need to get out of here. You know, let's get out of here, man. We won. Let's go.